Which character does this pertain to? Furthermore, I believe this largely pertains to the writers. There was a clear intention behind consistently bringing Zach back and expanding the storyline, involving him and Penny from mere dates to a full-fledged relationship with shared trips. The writers recognized the untapped comedic potential in exploring the Zach/Penny dynamic further during the initial run. In addition to the already mentioned great characters, James Earl Jones stands out. James Earl Jones, let me guess, you're a Star Wars fan. Sheldon nods. James Earl Jones, you know, I've appeared in other films. Sheldon nods again. James Earl Jones, but those don't interest you, do they? Sheldon shakes his head. James Earl Jones, I have one thing to say to people like you. I'm a Star Wars fan too. It would have been intriguing to see Penny's father and Bernadette's father together. Additionally, I feel Wil Wheaton deserved more screen time, considering his exceptional portrayal of the villain character. Regarding Claire, I speculate there could have been a storyline where Penny and Claire develop a close friendship, leading to Amy feeling jealous and excluded. As for Brian, Bert Kibler, I appreciated his laid-back demeanor, and I believe he could have been introduced as a potential suitor for Amy after her breakup with Sheldon. I can almost envision Sheldon's jealousy at the thought of her dating the geologist disdainfully. I absolutely adored Bert. He deserved more screen time, and his episodes were fantastic. From the party with just Amy and Penny, to the award ceremony, and the hilarious "a boulder will roll right over you" line. Additionally, his smaller contributions, such as assisting Sheldon and Amy with identifying quartz in their wedding gift, and looking after Raj's dog, were delightful. Lastly, Stuart and Alex. I have a deep fondness for Stuart, and I dislike the direction his character took. Moreover, the main cast's consistent mistreatment of him was disheartening. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day, so let's dive into today's video. It's disappointing that Bernadette never really expresses enthusiasm for any particular interests. Despite being portrayed as intelligent, she often seems overshadowed by Penny, and not given the opportunity to showcase her own brilliance. While Amy has a range of hobbies and can engage intellectually with Sheldon, Bernadette's potential intelligence seems underutilized. Before anyone mentions her pageantry or ventriloquism, it's worth noting that these are only briefly mentioned, and Bernadette seems embarrassed by them, unlike the guys who embrace their quirks. I hadn't noticed this before. Perhaps the intention behind Bernadette's character was to focus solely on her professional and home life. Given the large main cast, the writers may have prioritized storytelling around these aspects, leaving little room to explore her hobbies in depth. The writers seem to aim for diversity in character portrayal. Penny represents a different type of intelligence, while Amy mirrors the intellect of the guys. Bernadette falls somewhere in between, creating a balanced dynamic. Similarly, each of the male characters exhibits varying degrees of intelligence. Raz's ability to connect with the girls on a different level adds to this dynamic. While Bernadette has her moments, such as offering good advice, being passionate about her lab work, and enjoying outings with the girls, she remains largely well-rounded. It's true that most adults, like Bernadette, don't have much time for hobbies, especially once they have children. When we first meet Bernadette, she's balancing work and pursuing a PhD, leaving little time for hobbies. As the series progresses, her interactions with the group dominate her screen time, and her demanding job coupled with motherhood further limit any potential hobbies. So, it's understandable that she doesn't have much time for personal interests. Rest in peace, Sherm the Worm. Avoid naming him. Just impale the hook into his face. Penny remarks, saying Yu is definitely on the list of things you don't want to do in front of your father-in-law. It ranks alongside Icky and Get It Away. During the interview, the writer or director mentioned that Mrs. Wolowitz was present on the rooftop during Howard and Bernie's wedding. Is she the person in red or in white beside Mike? The couple seated together at the bottom are identified as Mr. and Mrs. Rostenkowski, with the other person being Mrs. W. Was it clarified that the actress portraying Mrs. Wolowitz was physically present, or was the mention more about Howard's interaction with her off-camera, as is typical in scenes where we hear her voice? The emphasis was indeed on her presence, indicated by a small figure on the rooftop as the camera zooms out. While the specifics of her attire may not have been mentioned, it's plausible she could be the individual in red. Howard directed his voice toward her to move closer, suggesting she was somewhere behind, rather than beside Mike. However, if Bernie's mother was also present, Mrs. Wolowitz might have occupied a separate seat to complete the group closest to the newlyweds. Have the guys ever managed to attend Comic-Con during the show's 12-year run? It seems like they've missed it numerous times for various reasons. For instance, they were in the North Pole on one occasion. Another time, Raj couldn't afford it. Leonard opted to spend time with Penny, and Howard prioritized his family. There was also an instance where they couldn't secure tickets due to the online queue. However, there are indications that they did attend at least once. Raj mentioned it in relation to his and Howard's sex lives, and in another episode, Raj stated that he had never missed a Comic-Con with the group. Additionally, given that San Diego Comic-Con usually takes place in late July, it's plausible that they attended off-screen between seasons. In one episode, they missed the ticket queue, and Sheldon ended up spending the day with James Earl Jones, who invited them to attend with him. So it's possible they went to Comic-Con off-screen for that particular event. While the show has depicted conventions, such as the Van Nuys comic book convention, and Leonard accompanying Penny to her signing for Serial Apiist, Comic-Con itself has never been fully explored on screen. One of the disappointments for fans is the lack of an episode showing the guys actually making it to Comic-Con. The closest glimpse we got was when they attended a Renaissance fair or when Leonard accompanied Penny to her book signing. Howard Wolowitz is often overlooked as a character, but I believe he's truly underrated. His delivery of jokes, his general attitude, and especially his impressions of others are incredibly impressive. He's undoubtedly one of the funniest characters on the show. I particularly enjoy his wit and sarcasm, as well as his knack for impressions. However, I do wish the show had showcased him working on more substantial and exciting projects, like rocket engine thrusters or advanced avionics code, which would have allowed him to challenge Sheldon more effectively, who often focuses on theoretical concepts. Howard became my favorite character after he evolved from his initially creepy persona. His character arc, from a single guy living with his mom to a happily married man with 2 children who has even been to space, is truly remarkable. It's a more significant transformation compared to characters like Sheldon, who didn't change much over the course of the series. His development throughout the series was fantastic. He transitioned from being cringeworthy to genuinely funny and was the first among the group to mature and settle down, ultimately starting a family. In interviews with the cast, especially with Simon Helberg, who portrays Howard, one can truly appreciate his comedic genius. He brings a unique energy to the show, having experience in comedy troupes and stand-up comedy, in addition to his acting skills. While Howard may have received criticism in the early seasons for his creepy behavior, he is definitely highly regarded for his versatility and his endearing relationship with Bernie. Overall, he deserves more recognition for his contributions to the show's humor and character dynamics.